pursuit is not goalless, never is goalless. So every action we are doing is for own sake in the name of God. Yes, for the sake of your own growth. Yeah. Alright, enough. We'll start the next class now. Hold the questions. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Continuing with our discussion on how to transform actions into prayer or to do the things prayerfully, you can just follow this same formula. And what is this formula? Just what we talked about just now. Avahanam, So bring the mind back. The mind here is the one that is the medium. So think about what is it that is. So in the beginning, even before Avahanam, the person does a little pranayama and meditation to come back to oneself. The pujari or the one who is there does a few rounds of pranayama and comes back, dhyanam. The guru is thought of and Bhagavan is thought of even before worshipping Bhagavan. And so here too, any job that you need to do, spend a few seconds, if not minutes, just being with the thought of what needs to be done. Visualize it. And immediately the panic will start. Oh, I don't think I can do it in time. I don't think I can do a good job. Let those thoughts, just don't go with those thoughts. Watch the thoughts come and go. Because right now, you are just very nicely visualizing it. And the panic for the job will not come unless there is procrastination. And I'm going to talk about procrastination presently. The panic will not come. And so visualize what needs to be done. Spend a few moments visualizing what needs to be done. And say a silent prayer. Please inform all my organs of actions, O Bhagavan. Please be my hands and legs. Be my mind. Guide me to do this properly. A silent prayer. Again, that should take half a second, 1 second, 2 seconds. A thought in the form of a prayer. And then, when you embark on the action itself, when you are there very much, you are not away from the action. Because you have taken this time to prepare, and this preparation is a lot. Just like the preparation for the puja. And then you do avahanam, you abide your own body, mind, sense complex and say, I am really here and I am the one doing this action. That's how the mindfulness is there, the attention is there. And along with attention, it is done devotedly because you say, I am doing this with a full heart and mind to prepare myself to gain moksha, to prepare myself for this knowledge. So this action is an offering for the sake of gaining knowledge. This too is an offering. So that could be something very simple or mundane, it doesn't matter. But this is so that I lose the sense of alienation and I lose the sense of being a samsari. I lose this sense of fear and sorrow. This is so that I can discover myself to be as I am, so that I can prepare myself to do this. And immediately what you are doing will have a meaning and a purpose other than itself. Then immediately it becomes prayerful. There is a reason to do that. Because this is helping me in the quest of which I am very fond. And so that is what has to be brought out. And when you bring that out, immediately there is a transformation, a beautiful transformation. Because then you are there very much. And whether it is something mundane like cutting vegetable, painting a wall, washing the car, walking the dog, and immediately if the thoughts start to come, why am I doing this? I don't like this. Just say this is for the sake of gaining knowledge. When the thoughts I don't like come, you replace with this is preparing me and helping me to be a more calm, a more accepting individual. I'm doing this as an ultimate seva for my own sake to prepare for the knowledge. So this whole idea that the actions are meaningless and I am disconnected from the action does not happen. You start embodying your own body, mind, sense complex. You are very much there. And then you perform the action. That's why no action is selfless. Because without the self, what action can take place? Yeah. So the self is very much there. I am there behind all the actions. And so reverentially you do the action, reverentially cut the vegetables, prayerfully wash the car, devotionally walk the dog or do anything, take out the garbage devotionally. Devotionally means with care. Not that after this what do I have to do? Iske baad kya? Fir kya? That fir kya has to go. Yeah. This fir kya disease. Fir kya means what next? What's going to come next? What's going to come next? You don't do that in the puja. That steps are already there. You go, the idea is you go one step after another step after another step. So here too you go step by step. Because when things are done in a hurry, they are not done prayerfully. They are not done like the puja. So you are mimicking the puja in your everyday life. And puja is nitya karma, correct? It has got to be done whether you like it or not. And so taking out the garbage has got to be done whether you like it or not. Otherwise the house, you will have to go out and the garbage lives inside. That's what will happen. So the taking out the garbage is also nitya karma. One is laukika, the mundane one, and the other one is called the sacred one, vaidika. The distinction is purely for the matter of, it's a aupachariki distinction. Aupacharikam means just formality's sake we differentiate. But there is no division of labor of secular and sacred tasks according to the Bhagavad Gita. All tasks are sanctified by making them prayerful. All tasks are sanctified. So even if it's something very mundane, polishing shoe, taking out garbage, you do it worshipfully and mindfully. That is the idea. And the little rebel that says, but I don't want to do it, is put to bed. Yeah. Is suspended. Because that is an attitudinal problem. And that being who says, I don't want to do it, is the disconnected renegade who is taking you away from the quest. It is the ahankara, the I notion, that has lost its way. And through the work, and only in this tradition we can afford to say work is worship. Because anything that I worshipfully do is worship alone. And this is what is said in the 46th verse of the 18th chapter. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. By worshipping Bhagavan, the all-pervasive Bhagavan with one's own work, the person becomes successful in the quest. This is what is there. Gains moksha. How? Because by preparing oneself for the knowledge. So therefore, when when the work itself is worship, it has to be sanctified. I can't offer yesterday's work today. Just like I can't offer 3 days ago leftover for Naivedyam. Right? It has to be something fresh. So the more I procrastinate, it is like offering leftovers to Bhagavan. If my work has to come to the level of making it worthy of worship, that means the mind has to be in one place. The raga dveshas have to be tethered or suspended at best. And then everything has to be done in the now. I can't offer 5 weeks laundry and do it now. and say Karma Yoga is not coming because I'm stressed out, because all I have is one handkerchief, everything else is, is in the laundry basket, I have to do laundry right now. And when you start doing that, what will happen? The chances are that you will stuff the laundry machine. Why? Because you are in a hurry, you don't want to do many loads, and then after that what will happen? It will malfunction. Because Mercury is in retrograde, it will definitely malfunction. And then what will happen? Then you have to call somebody to repair it, and then you are even more delayed, and because you have already delayed. This is what it is. And by the end of it, you are frustrated, stressed and angry. Is this puja? Is this work is worship? No. So therefore, you have to do that what you tell your children to do when they sit down to lunch or dinner. Every parent tells the child, what you don't like, you eat that first. Then you eat what you like. You save that for later, because the plate has got to be clean. So one way to clean up the plate is to eat what you don't like first. All the spinach and everything, whatever you don't like. And then what you like, you save for later. Every mother says this, every father tells the child. And now the mother and the father that was telling the child has to have the taste of their own lesson. What you don't like, you do first. Then you can leisurely do what you like. And the idea is, you change, you transform yourself from a person who always, who always strives to do what they like, to a person who likes whatever needs to be done, who likes everything they do. There is nothing that you will not enjoy. That has to be the inner disposition. And you see, the Karma Yoga is not for the faint of heart. To make worship worthy requires a lot of mindfulness and an attitude of reverence and prayer, and a mindful attitude and a devotional attitude where every action is as sacred as a flower placed upon the feet of the Lord in a temple or in your shrine. That is how I have to approach what needs to be done. So it should change the whole work ethic. I'm not doing it for a promotion. I'm not doing it so that my boss is pleased. I'm not doing it to be upwardly mobile. I'm not doing this to show off. I'm not doing it because my identity depends on it. I'm doing it as an act of worship. I'm doing this because it needs to be done. How come nobody else is doing it? Well, that's okay. They have, if nobody else is doing it, they have, missed a time to commune with Bhagavan. So more things to do if you have on your plate. That means more communion with Bhagavan, more time to be with Bhagavan, more punya to gather by doing things mindfully, less problems. This is the way to look at it. This is how to sanctify what one does, to make it worship worthy, exactly like the whole ritual. And when I'm just taking the example of the Hindu worship, but you can take the same thing from the Mass, from the Catholic Mass or any other religion, doesn't matter. Because there will be certain things. And then the prasada, what comes, I take. Similarly, when I do the work and the result of actions come, I take whatever comes as prasada. If you go to the temple, or the church, they give something. There is communion in church. They don't say this is bread and wine. Nobody calls it bread and wine. This is a part of Bhagavan. This is the body of Christ. This is the blood of Christ. They say that. This is Bhagavan that you are ingesting. This is sacred. And you don't fight with the person who is saying, that person got a bigger sip, I got a small sip, that person got a bigger piece, only small thing is left for me. No. Whatever comes you take, because it is symbolic. And it is symbolic because that attitude called prasada buddhi I have for all the things in my own life. This is how to make work worshipful, and the Karma Yogi is the one who makes all the things that one has to do, one does worshipfully. And here is where the resolution of the pain and the sorrow. Because when you're doing something worshipfully and mindfully, there is no time to be sad. And even if sad thoughts come, the sad thoughts say, okay, I'll be sad afterwards, because right now I'm having a good time doing this. And then after that you will forget to be sad, because you will be fulfilled. There is a sense of purpose, there is a sense of delight, there is a sense of satisfaction that I have done this in the best possible way, rather than just half-heartedly because it needs to be done and nobody is looking, and so I'm just going to, do some kind of a shoddy job. So therefore, the work as worship requires an inner transformation. And that transformation is what makes one into a karma yogi, ready for this knowledge. And so the 12th chapter is all about how to get ready for the knowledge. And for such a karma yogi, Bhagavan makes a promise. Tesham aham samuddharta mrityu samsara sagarat. Such a person I will lift myself out of the horrific ocean of samsara. And then immediately the person feels good. Oh, Bhagavan is going to lift me out. Mujhe save karega. He's going to save me. And this is, this is again a problematic expression, because it can be taken in many ways. Already everybody has a wanna be saved psychology, correct? Secretly everyone wants to be saved. Somebody or other should save. And if someone doesn't save, you get angry at them. If God doesn't save, you get angry at Bhagavan. In fact, that is half the life you feel angry at Bhagavan. How come you were not there? What were you doing? Why didn't you save? And this, this verse can be taken, this particular line of this verse. Tesham aham samuddharta achirat bhavami. Nityu samsara sagarat. From this ocean of samsara, fraught with endings and death and horrific other things, I am going to lift them out of these. Who? Tesham. Who is this Tesham? What I just described. In the last 1.5 hours, the person who is able to calm down enough to pray as they work, to do everything prayerfully and mindfully and devotionally, the one who is able to do that, the one who is established in Karma Yoga. So for such people, Bhagavan becomes a savior. This is what the Bhagavad Gita says. Samuddharta. Uddharta means the one who lifts one up from sinking glub 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 in the ocean of samsara. And we have to understand what this means. And some people think this means that moksha is gained by Bhagavan's grace. All you need is to ask Bhagavan, you are the one who put me in this ocean of samsara because of my ignorance, and so you are the one, you have to lift me. And if you pray like that with a heart, Bhagavan will take you and say, come on, let me give you moksha. Here is moksha. What is that? This is only mocha, not moksha, okay? That too only 72%, yeah. No, this is not even 100%. So Bhagavan will hand out moksha, like even handing out the chocolate at the end of class. Bhagavan will hand out moksha. Can Bhagavan do that? And such people will argue, Bhagavan can do anything. Can Bhagavan give what is already there? Like a head on your shoulders? If the devotee prays, please give me, oh Bhagavan, a head on the shoulders. And Bhagavan says, I can see why you think that you don't have a head on your shoulders. Because you are behaving like this by asking me this. By asking me this question, you are behaving like that. I can see that. But regardless of how you feel, you have a head on the shoulders. I can give you another head. You can be like the Indian double-decker bus, or I can give you back to back. You can surprise your friends, whether you are going or coming, they will not be able to tell. Or I can give you side by side, but I can't give you a head on the shoulders. Why? Because you already possess it. So what is moksha? You understand, it's not a dispensation from Bhagavan. Like, some kind of happy pill. Yeah, here is some happy pills. I'm going to give you some, happy pills. and you just swallow the pills. The pill is my grace, and then this is a sugar coated placebo, and then this is called moksha bo, and then you gain moksha. All your sorrows are gone. That is not what it is. For if sorrows to go, if that kind of sorrows you need to go, you don't have to pray to Bhagavan. You just go and get a prescription for antidepressant. That's the same thing. Because as long as the pill is being taken, the depression is there under wraps, and then the depression comes back. So what kind of moksha is it if Bhagavan gives what is already your own Swarupa? So how can Bhagavan give what already you possess? This is not a dispensation, this is your own nature. So then the question comes, what does Bhagavan actually give? So Bhagavan can't give moksha. Yes, even Bhagavan cannot give moksha. But what about Gajendra moksha and all these things? Those are all praised. Those are all praised, and the Gajendra moksha and all is praised because Bhagavan gives knowledge. Bhagavan gives knowledge that makes you see that you were never in peril to begin with. The grace of Bhagavan leads you to knowledge. That is what it is. The psychology of wanting to be saved is a problem. The savior psychology of wanting to be saved, it's a subjective desire to be wanted by someone as important as Bhagavan. But you yourself are as that Bhagavan only, there is nobody outside of you. And so this moksha is yourself and your Swarupa alone. So Bhagavan cannot give moksha. Why? Because it is you. No, Bhagavan takes away dukkha and gives Brahmananda. Dukkha means what?
Suffering.
Sorrow and suffering. So Bhagavan takes away dukkha and shows you Brahmananda, because before Bhagavan the Ananda was so much, only so little. After Bhagavan the Ananda is great. Again, what is Ananda?
Limitlessness.
Your own Swarupa, limitlessness. Can limitlessness be given? It already is. It can neither be given, nor be taken, nor be, made into parts. It already is, it is you. No, Bhagavan takes away dukkha from you. Are you dukkhi? Huh? Yes, I am dukkhi. Who is saying? Ananda Atma. Even the sadness has to be upheld by this Ananda only. Because everything is Satchit Ananda. So the crying Jiva is really upheld by Ananda. Remember this always. Next time you cry, remember this. The tears will vanish. There is nothing to cry about. You are the one. You are the one that is being upheld. You are upheld by Ananda. Even the tears, to sustain the tears, it is Ananda Atma, the one that is limitlessly joyful, is upholding the tears. So am I a split personality? Kind of, yes. Not enough of a garden variety split personality. Not enough to go to the psychiatrist, but alarming enough to be to go to the Vedanta teacher. Yes. This split is as though it's not a real split. The Jiva Ishvara split is as though, really speaking. When I am identified with the helplessness, I call myself Jiva, I call myself Anisha. When I see the truth of everything, that same Anisha feels like Isha. Sometimes Isha, kabhi Anisha. This is the Jiva's problem to begin with. So therefore what? So therefore Bhagavan cannot remove dukkha. Because dukkha, is it connected to Atma, or is it the property of Atma, or does it affect the Atma? What is the source of, what is the relationship between dukkha and Atma? What is the relationship? There is no relationship. Atma is asanga. Dukkha is a misnomer, a mistaken, transformation A mad transformation of limitlessness is dukkha. Not understanding limitlessness, one comes to grief. Anishaya shochati muhyamanah. Deluded from this limitlessness, from the knowledge of limitlessness, one comes to grief. That delusion is nothing but self-ignorance. And so then the dukkha Bhagavan cannot take. Why? Bhagavan is all pervasive. Bhagavan cannot take dukkha. If dukkha is not there, what is that Bhagavan going to take? Tell me. What is there for him to take? All that he can, give is the conducive, what is that? Conducive conditions for the pursuit of this knowledge, so that there is no more suffering. Yeah. And then here again people say that, Bhagavan has to come and teach me directly. This is a problem. What I should say, I don't know, really. Bhagavan has to come and teach me directly. I don't want to deal with local gurus. I want, Bhagavan in the form of Guru. Why Dakshinamurti came to Sanaka, Sanat Kumara, he came himself? Then why am I any less than them? I should also get, Bhagavan should come right here, right now and teach. Such a person doesn't know the meaning of Bhagavan, such a person doesn't know the meaning of Shastra, such a person doesn't know the meaning of Guru, really. It's like that person who was caught in the flood. When I was in Detroit, the children did a nice play, and they depicted this lovely, skit of this bhakta, this foolish bhakta. His name was Manda Baba, slightly dull, Why was he named Manda Baba? Because he was slightly dull. Because he kept saying the whole town is being washed away in the flood. And then he kept saying, Krishna only has to come and save me. Bhagavan will come and save me because I am a bhakta. Main bhagat hu, I am a bhakta. And Krishna only has to come. So then, the sentries came, the town crier came, the king himself came, everybody came. The last boat left the village. And then what? What were his last words? Glub, glub, glub. That's he perished in the flood, and he waited at the gates of Vaikuntha, which is our version of Krishna heaven. And then because of his good deeds, he went to heaven. And then he did not even, he could barely do namaskar to Krishna. He was so angry. How could you leave me in the lurch? I was so convinced that you will save me. Krishna said, idiot, I sent a helicopter, I sent planes, I sent boats, I sent even the king's royal yacht. Oh, what more did you? Why didn't you get on all those things? Why did you, think that they are all away from me? And similarly, to cross the ocean of samsara, Bhagavan sends Upanishad. How? Via the internet. The boat of Upanishad, yeah. Naya comes, Naya means boat. The Upanishadic boat comes and lulls you into understanding your limitlessness, and takes you out of the horrifying nightmare of this life and all the wrong notions that one is, having. It takes you out of that, and then, even in the internet the knowledge comes. Think about that. It's not a miracle. This is our miracle. That such sacred knowledge you can get sitting at your house, wherever you are, in whichever country. There are people from 10 countries taking this course, There are 111 students that are registered from 10 countries. So what made them do this? Bhagavan only made them do this. Bhagavan's, and it's very interesting because people came at the last minute, somebody, friends of friends of friends of friends of friends. Somebody said, is it too late to join? I said, no, join, no problem, because who am I, If you are meant to come, you'll come. So Bhagavan creates the situations that even if you say, I'm not going to leave house at all, the knowledge will come to you streaming. Streaming in your own house. Yeah, even though you are 10,000 miles away, the knowledge comes streaming. This is Bhagavan. We have to understand. And so this is what it means. Teshamaham samuddharta mrityu samsara sagarat. So those who have been doing their job well, what they need to do, they have been doing. They have been trying to seek me. They have been trying to grow out of their raga dveshas. They are trying to prepare their heart for this knowledge. And for them, I'm not going to leave them alone. I'm going to send them the teacher. I'm going to send them the teachings, which are nothing but me alone. So I'm going to make sure that they are not left adrift in this ocean, which is all but an ocean. I'm going to make sure that they know that this ocean is nothing but an ocean. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. और क्या? So they said streaming, screaming and beaming. This is the knowledge. Okay, very nice. When you say there is no one outside of myself, how can I see people committing crimes? Their true nature is not separate from myself, but their actions are. Yes, because they are misusing their free will. Yeah. You said that everything is predictable. Can you comment on quantum physics that says nothing is predictable at the subatomic level? Well, even at the level of quantum physics, when they say nothing is predictable, it's a provisional statement. Nothing is everything becomes unpredictable because the observer is affecting the observed, the experiment. And that's because the observed and the observer are one whole. That is all it is. Yeah. Amber, you are coming tomorrow? Wonderful. Come. Very nice. I'm happy. Oh. Yeah, you can, Shalini, you can watch the classes on live stream, okay? Yeah. Watch the classes. While Shankara emphasized monism, Ramana Maharshi was not for it. That will take up another time. There is no such thing called monism. There is only ism. Everything is only Bhagavan. Ramana Maharshi was also saying the same thing. There was no different approach. Yeah. We have to understand that. There may have been different expressions, but there was not really a different approach. There are some dreams when we see God or Guru giving some instructions how to take this as punya karma fructifying. If you see Guru in the dream and God in the dream, it's some good karma that has fructified. Can you download these classes to iDevices? Sure. I don't know how, but go ahead. You have my permission.
Livestream has an app swap.
Livestream has an app for that. See?
Yeah.
So, and then, let's see. Good night. Yes, good night to you too. And Nazira, where are you? Are you also in Toronto? Nazira? Wonderful. I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. Oh, Brazil. Yeah, see? That's what. Sao Paulo, Brazil. Wonderful. Welcome. What time is it there? What time is it there? 10 p.m. Perfect. Lovely. Good night. Combination of both. Om Namah Shivaya.